Hello and welcome to the TT Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to one person, or in this case, two people from the world of the TT racers to discuss their lives, their journeys, their ambitions, and their relationship with the greatest motorsporting event in the world. I'm Chris Pritchard, and with me is Steve Plater. Steve, 2 for the price of 1 today.
Hey Chris, Mansfield's finest.
Well, technically, yeah. I mean, I live close by, but I'm not technically Mansfield. Otherwise, you know, they'd be second and third. But Tom and Ben Birchall, the dominating brothers of the sidecar scene.
Yeah, without doubt, and the athletes of that class.
Mm-hmm. Would you say the Valentino Rossis of the sidecar scene?
Yeah, pretty much at the moment. They're the ones you've got to knock off the pedestal to score a TT win.
Let's have a chat to them right now. For today's episode of the TT Podcast, we're joined by Ben and Tom Birchall. The two brothers from Mansfield made their TT debut back in 2009. They went on to take their first TT victory in 2013, and since then, this is a big stat, they've won every TT race they've finished, setting numerous new lap records and race records in the process. With 10 TT wins together, they are the most successful sidecar pairing in history, and Tom is now the most successful TT passenger of all time. And Ben's sights must surely be on that record of 17 TT victories from Dave Molyneux. It hasn't been all plain sailing, however. Suspension failure saw them flying off the side of Snaefell Mountain in 2012, and a nasty crash in 2014 left Ben with serious hand injuries that threatened his career. But clearly, it's not slowed them down in the slightest. They're both great athletes and engineers, but does being brothers give them that final edge? Ben once said, there's some kind of intuition going on just growing up together. You know what each other are thinking, what's coming up next, and that's not just on the bike. I can pass him the vinegar while he's still looking at his bag of chips because I know he's ready for some more. Ben, Tom, welcome to the TT Podcast. How are we doing?
Good,
Great.
mate. Thank you very much.
How was my intro?
Very good.
Thanks.
I didn't know all for that lot.
Wrote it yourself.
I don't think I'm getting out this door. My head's just got massive.
Right, let's get straight into this first question. So, you've listened to the podcast before. You know the question that's coming, but there's 2 of you this time. So, Ben, we'll start with you. That tap on the shoulder, you're rolling up onto the start line on the sidecar. You get that hand grabbing your shoulder. You're waiting for that tap. What's going through your mind in those moments?
Just you saying that makes you start twitching and hairs start standing up on the back of your neck. And I think I can see Steve laughing. Anybody that's had that knows that feeling. I try and have absolutely nothing in my head. That's something that I try and do. No distractions, nothing. It's difficult, obviously, but that's just what I do. Try and just be dead clear cut and start thinking when you start going. That's me.
Yeah. And Ben, you obviously don't get the tap on the shoulder, but you can see that
That's
tap
Tom,
happening.
by the way, just as we're going on.
Do you know how many times I'm going to do this in this podcast? Tom, you clearly don't have the tap on the shoulder, but you can see it happening. You know what's coming. Is it slightly different being the passenger?
Yeah, it's weird because it's like you want it to happen, but you don't want it to happen at the same time. But as soon as the guy comes and he's got his hand there, I'm like, things change. Ears go up on the back of his neck. He's steering down that road, so I'm confident. I'm like, right, he's got his head on, off we go. And when he does give the tap, man, it's just like you're at peace. Then going to work, you're doing your job. All them weird emotions and all that nervousness, it's just gone.
It's literally like a flick of the switch.
Like a flick of the switch, yeah.
And Steve, you've had the tap on the shoulder. Well, you've kind of had the tap on the shoulder with Ben. You've been sat in that passenger seat.
No, you're right, yeah. But, I had to obviously, the boys asked for some lessons. So I dug deep, and offered to sit on the back and obviously try and get Ben up to the pace I know he's capable of with a decent passenger.
Oh, we're chasing them wins,
So,
Steve.
and of course, once we set off, I just kind of thought, well, is that it? Is that as fast as we flipping go? It's pretty easy, really. You say it's like a big comfy armchair.
Yeah.
What more can I say?
I must say, you did well to get in my leathers. I didn't think that happening.
But I think probably the only distressing part for me about the whole lap, was getting back to the paddock and all the girls chasing around me when I got off the back of the cycle.
Yeah.
That takes a few years to, cope with, but I've been at it a while.
You get used to it.
I'll give you a few pointers.
Right, now talking about the sidecars, obviously, it's so different to what I'm used to. You know, it was a great experience for me, and
Mhm.
I'm very thankful. But it's so different to racing on two wheels. You know, and you know, for you, Ben, is it more like racing a car than a motorbike?
I don't know. I've not done any car racing. I would think that the visual perspective of what you get as a driver is because of the height, and it's something that's overlooked a lot with Sidecar. You know, we're probably 2 foot lower than what a solo rider is. They can see through edges or look over walls, or I think you said something to me. What point you're looking at, your exit point or something? And I said I don't have one, and we don't. A lot of the TT course to us is completely blind. You just work out that you turn in there flat out and it comes out at the right point.
See, that's really weird for me.
Yeah.
From my side and my
Yeah.
discipline, it's just so, and I find that very hard to be accurate.
But that's the way we learn it, and we know nothing else. And I think that knowledge gets passed, or the start of that knowledge gets passed on from other drivers. You know, I got some help from Nick Crowe. I did a couple of laps with him. I did a lap with Tim Reeves, and he said this bit is flat out now from here to here, and you're like, what? How is it? But you know, it took me years to do that, and whether that is actually done by anybody, I don't know, but it is possible to do it. So you know that you can go through this left and that right into that next bit, full gas, and you don't actually have to see through it. You just know that your road positioning will end up all right.
So arguably, sorry Chris,
Go
but
for it.
arguably it's harder to learn the course at pace than it is on solos.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. And I think it then becomes a battle of your how fast you want to go and how scared you want to be, really. And you've got to build that up. And it's quite interesting because at the minute we're going to have a newcomer with us for this TT, and that question will be brilliant for him because he's an ex-car racer and bike racer, so he's got both sides of it. But we just had a weekend there and at the Isle of Man, and he was like, what this? I said, yeah, this is as fast as you can go, and it's just that, it's how fast you want to go, how much you want to push yourself, and then you find out you unlock bits as you go along. So instead of rolling, you think, I could do that flat. No, I can't. Yeah, I can. It might take 3 laps or 3 years, but eventually you'll work your way to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it's probably the same with a solo, but I think we have a lot more places on the course where we're just flat out in top gear, and it is doable, it is capable if you and him can, you know.
There's a lot of trust and self-confidence in himself. You know, I'll notice it as we build up through the week. You know, he might open throttle 3/4 of the way around Doran's Bend there, but then, you know, we fast forward to race and he's already, you know, took a gear out, back on it, and, you know, and that just builds over the week. But learning it, you know, going through certain places, right now I've got to be full speed, otherwise you're just not going to make that next step. That's a big commitment to make, isn't it? You know, I'm glad I'm not doing his job.
Is there any, Steve, you might be able to answer this because you've done both. Would there be any advantage trying to learn it on a solo as a sidecar rider? Because like you say, you can see over those hedges, you can see a bit further down the road. Or would that completely confuse your perspective once you drop down that 2 foot and then it looks like a completely different track?
Yeah, it looks so different.
Yeah.
I'll even in the car, sometimes I'll stop and get out and crouch down to where I'd be. And if anybody does it, you go, oh, where am I? You know, it is completely different. So when we were learning it, I just got to a point and I said to Tom, I need to get on sidecar now. That's it. I've done as much as I can, I'm sure, and it's going to change again when you get on sidecar. And sure enough, it did. You're lost. Where am I? I can't recognise this bit until you get going. Yeah.
Just to answer that, you know, I can't get the grass between the two because, you know, I was the passenger sat on the back, just like Tom.
Yeah.
So, you know, unfortunately for Ben, I haven't driven around there yet.
Fortunately
but
for
you
your
say much higher,
passenger.
sat in the back.
For Tom.
So let's talk sidecars then, because I mean, I grew up wanting to be a passenger in a sidecar. That was like the dream. But there's a lot of people that you know, it's not as big as it used to be back in the kind of the 80s and the 90s. First simple question I have is, why is a passenger on the left-hand side?
I think it just comes from the English roads and European roads.
Right.
A lot of back in the day, if there was a European chassis manufacturer, they'd have sidecar on the right.
Right.
You know, and the English builders built them on the left. So some tracks it favours corners. So some tracks the Europeans would win because, you know, or have more chance of winning because that bike would handle better on a clockwise track than an anti-clockwise track.
There's not many anti-clockwise tracks anymore, is there?
No.
Yeah.
Think about, you know, the Saxon Ring that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
But then the European lads would turn up with a sidecar on the other side, so, you know, they'd be great round there. But most of the circuits are clockwise, aren't they? So
Yeah. So let's talk engines then. What engines are we using in sidecars at the minute?
We use Hondas, and we have done for since we started, basically. Yeah, and we have a great relationship with Honda now, and you know they appreciate what we do, and we get some good help, and that relationship has been cemented with Chris Mayo. He's been with us since we rode for Claffey, and I get on. You know, we get on great with him, and what a great guy. He's a great part of TT. If you look back at what he's done and who he's been involved with, so yeah, we use them, and albeit let's say maybe it's a bit of an older engine now. It's for us for a sidecar. It works brilliant. It's certainly
600, right?
600.
And the rules for this year changing slightly.
Yeah, which is good. It's opened up another avenue for development, for things to come in, and it definitely needed it, because whatever happens in the next couple of years, at the minute 600 seems to be in a bit of no man's land, and they've changed the super sport rules for solos, so it's great by TT organisers to sort of keep us in that changing time and not leave us stuck in a old-fashioned sidecar time, and they've opened it up, and it'd be interesting to see. I know Dave Molyneux, he's building a bike with a twin in it, with a KTM in it, so it'll be interesting to see what they're like, you know.
So the draw for the TT as well, isn't it? It's the spectacle and the noise that you get, you know. There's no noise limit there, so we always go with a loud exhaust, and people love it, you know, they really do. So it's going to bring some different sensations to it as well. So as a fan, it's going to work. It's going to be good.
Yeah. What you know, CC wise, obviously they're the rules, but how would you feel at racing 1000cc around the Isle of Man TT course?
It'd be
same rule for everybody, obviously, but
yeah, you can look at it. It's like riding a big bike and a little bike. I think you have to try a lot harder on a little bike, a lower CC bike, to keep it going. You probably, I don't know, maybe you'd say you'd ride a twin a lot harder than you would 1000. I've never done it, so I don't know, but that's the way I think of it. So yeah, if we had 1000cc, you probably won't have to corner as hard, but you wouldn't be able to either, because the thing is a lot heavier. So where our bikes at, they seem to be at a good package, and you've only to look at what's happened with the World Championship. We've reduced CC from 1000 to 600, and they're now breaking 1000cc lap records, so they're going quicker with less CC. So I don't know, 1000cc grand.
Takes an handful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. As a passenger, Tom, you know, do you think that it's not really doable?
I don't think my arms are strong enough for that. It's like one of them, innit? It's down to the organisers to think about the safety aspect, really, because when we were doing World Championship with 1000cc, there were probably 2 or 3 teams in world that were really fully in control of them, and you know that's what brought in part of the rule change, because it was just 2-3 bikes disappearing at distance, you know. So you've got to think about the whole package and the whole field. If they said you've got to, then we would, because we still want to go racing at TT, but I don't know. I think it's in a good place. You know, I think it's all right as it is. So
this stat I've got here, tell me if this is true. 70% of the TT lap is at full throttle.
It's not far off that.
If
it's not 70, it's 60.
Really?
The amount. You sort of forget, I do, because you just do it, and then you watch an onboard, and then it sort of brings it back to you just how much it is flat out. Or like what we've just done. We've just probably done 10 laps the last weekend, and yeah, this is flat out. I'm still in top here. I don't change gate. It's still flat out, and it is. And when you ride short circuits, it's not very often that you are sat there wide open with enough time to start thinking about other stuff. Whereas at TT, you're
thinking about what's for tea when you get back.
If you're not careful, you can soon your mind can start wandering.
Yeah. So in turn, what does that do for an engine? How often are you changing your engines at the TT?
We'll take 4. We'll use a new engine for or a fully rebuilt engine for each race.
Right.
And then depending on how much practice we get, we might change that halfway through. And don't get me wrong, the engines would be capable of doing the whole thing, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But just as a longevity and a precaution, they get rebuilt after a certain amount of mileage, and that helps us in cost in the long run, over 2 or 3 years. So, but they do take a pounding, And the thing with us, we've very little suspension, so any bump that it goes over, the back wheel's off the floor, so we have to lower the rev limit so that when the wheel's off the floor, it's not hitting full revs all the time. So we'll compromise some of its performance for that. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. I think a lot of valves have been bent finding out where exactly we need to be.
That's some budget. Obviously 4 engines. Obviously it increased the cost of going to compete at TT as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where we are. We're lucky enough to be at that top end of the range, and you need big budget to do it, but it doesn't mean that that's what you need to do it, if you know what I mean. I don't want to sort of, there's lads that turn up there through every class with as much as they can get together, and they'll complete 2 races and do 3 laps in each one, and they might have one engine for all practice week, 1 race, and 1 spare that's not very good, and
Mm-hmm.
that's TT in it. It just covers such a broad spectrum of
the bike that we're building for the guy who's going to be a newcomer. Them engines are going to be almost standard, and they will do the whole job for him, and they'll keep going, and it'll be a great experience, hopefully. But we're splitting hairs. We're trying to find something,
You're right at the top end.
almost unachievable.
Yeah.
So everything has got to be scrutinised and looked at.
Do you think, you obviously you mentioned helping out a newcomer coming and obviously using one of your outfits and so on, and you're getting busy and busier and building outfits for different people. Do you think that's a distraction? How does that work?
Can be if you let it, and maybe I've compromised me after sales due to that in some way. I've tried not to, but at some point I have to, cut off and get on with me passion and also the other side of the bit that pays our wages. So if our bikes don't do any good, then who's going to want to buy them? And we've got to, at some point, really just say, I've got to get mine ready, or I've got to do our stuff. So, but there's 2 of us, so we regulate it between us, and I think the guys that have our bikes are understanding of that because they do it themselves. It would be nice to just do the bike building and be there as a real backup and try stuff and offer stuff, but it's not at that point. The level of sales and the budget, like we just spoke about, that guys get is not at that point in Sidecar. So it's very much a hands-on, and we do what we do. And the other good thing is that everyone needs to be ready for a certain time. So it's not like by March everyone needs to have the stuff and be up and running, us included. So with enough time then between there and TT to iron anything out that we want to do. And
how busy is the Birchall team this year? What, not just the Alaman TT, what else are you looking to attack for 2022?
Looking to go back to the World Championship. We've had a couple of years off, COVID hit everybody hard, and the travelling was a bit too much to take in. And it's, a loyal group of sponsors have thankfully stayed with us, and we're going to try and go back to the World Championship. But the main focus is TT. It's got to be. If things aren't going to plan, then we'll have to, put that on the back burner for a little bit. So full attention on TT. If we can pull a bit of BSB in, that'd be nice. We've got some guys from England who are sponsoring us, so it's nice to be able to do some events for them. And looking forward to World Championship if it comes off for us. But like I say, big job. It's TT.
So I guess the question is, obviously, every solo rider that goes to the TT wants to win a TT. But you wouldn't necessarily say that that's the pinnacle of the sport. Like, you're looking to do a bit of World Championship if you can, like on the side. Why is the TT so important to Sidecar drivers, riders, passengers?
Maybe it isn't to everybody, Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I think you're right, Tommy. It's not to everyone. It's not, but anyone that's approached it or thought about doing it or done it, it just is.
Yeah,
and certainly for us, as at the level we're at, if I didn't go to TT, I'd just be telling people that I do a World Championship, and it's not really publicised that good, or it has some coverage, but nothing like what you get from TT. So it, really for me, if that's what we need to give a certain amount back to people that are involved with us and friends and sponsors. So not only is it a fantastic event, it's also, a massive media pull, and anybody that speaks to us or said to me, "You're racing next year?" "Yeah." "Oh, is TT back on?" That's the first thing that they'll say.
Yeah.
Not is BSB on or is World Championship on. That's where we're at. So I had this discussion with some organisers from the World Championship of late, and I said, you don't understand how important that is. There's a clash of dates, which is one of them things, but well, why would you prioritise that over this? And well, you need to come and have a look at it first before you can ask that question.
If you know, it's one of them, isn't it?
No, exactly. Yeah. But did they understand it in the end?
I don't know. I don't care. I'm going to TT.
Good lad.
So is the TT? Is there a big difference between the TT in a sidecar compared to a short circuit? Because there is for solos, but is it the same? With the walls and the lack of runoff and
massive difference.
Huge, a different mindset.
It is a completely different mindset, right?
A big, huge amount of respect has to be paid to it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to Donington and say lap record, second lap or what. Wind each other up a bit.
Yeah.
But you go to TT and the approach is just very grounded, very back to basics. And I personally don't feel comfortable with it, as in, right, I'm just going to go and jump on it and do it like you would at Donington Park. You've got to take them steps, approach it, and almost as if it's your first one. Still tick the boxes, still have your pads in the right place and make sure everything's all right at home and all that kind of thing. Because it is such a big commitment, and it needs respecting, because we all know what can happen, or, it can bite you. We've been there. But not only that, you want to make sure everything's right to get the best out of your 2 weeks as you possibly can.
Yeah. So let's talk about your 2 weeks as a passenger. I mean, where'd you start with that? 9 times out of 10, when I watch a sidecar going round, you're not even looking where you're going. So how do you know where you are on the circuit at any one point? Practice, or do you just hope for best?
No. Well, I suppose I'll tell that story about when we went over doing some laps.
When you said where's he start, he normally starts in anchor on key.
Yeah. Well, it is like my job. It's totally different to his job. Totally different to what Steve's job was as a solo rider, and it's almost pointless me trying to talk you around a lap and what gear we're in, what throttle position I'm going to use through there. I remember it a lot with Ben, and we discuss it, and when we get back to after a practice or whatever. But I know it in my own way to make my contribution worthwhile to what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I am there just to complement what he wants to do, as in where I put my weight on the bike, where I weigh down on a bump or whatever. But like going back a few years, we Paul Phillips and his team got us over there, get us a hire car and all that kind of thing. It's great, and you're doing laps, and I'm not really learning a lot, sat messing about with radio, or there's an old woman crossing the road, and you're like, I don't know, what am I picking up from this? And so he's like, well, stick your head in footwell and tell me where we are in 5 miles time. Like, all right, then that's a good idea. So yeah, I learnt it by not looking. Like, right, we've gone left there, a bump there, going right there, and then right, pop up with Glen Ellen. Yep, here we are. Because that's the tricky thing. Once you get going there, like, on the fast approach towards Greba, I've been out at wind for a long time. He's taking in everything. I'm just completely tucked behind, trying to keep aerodynamic. And then you just have to pop up after that rise, and there's 2 speed signs either side. Pop up there, then go left. But you've got to speed up to that.
Yeah.
And like, you're not looking, you're looking at something still, as in parts of the bike, the fuel tank or whatever. Pop up, and you've got to catch up to 160 mile an hour, and the wind and the noise and so that takes some getting your head around. But I know it by bumps in the road, by where the bike's moving. I can see his braking foot, so I know when he's thinking about braking, listening for the engine, listening for what gear we're in. And I'm just trying to absorb it. I've been a bit of a weirdo in trying to take it all in.
So it's more like a sensory experience than it is
Yeah.
visual. And
Yeah.
like you say, it must be hard to go from looking at the footwell or whatever. You
Call it that.
yeah.
Yeah.
and then looking up, and you've got to
Being able to speed up to that.
and go, here I am.
Mm.
And if you're not, how does that affect you? And then if you've gone a bit too far, you're like, it must be.
Yeah, your timings have got to be right,
Yeah.
and they have to adjust as he's speeding up through the week, because things come at you quicker, or that bump that you used to rely on isn't there anymore because we've skimmed over that rather than hitting it. So yeah, it is a constant adjustment. Like we might set off in a race and he's just sort of settles into it a little bit, but then the next time we come through there, we're 6 seconds up in 1 sector. That's like got to be right, we're on it now sort of thing. So yeah, I've got to have my socks pulled up. I've got to mean it. You know what I mean? You've got to mean it.
Good to hear. This is.
Well, sorry, Steve. I was going to say, like for you, Ben, you've got. What happens if Tom isn't on the ball? What happens if he is a little bit late getting out of the into the wind, getting over into the right position? How?
I'm in the shit, and I mean shit.
You are.
You're in a world of
It can
pain.
be,
Yeah.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
But that's how critical it is.
Yeah.
It is at TT at the speeds that we're doing, and it's on its tiptoes in a lot of places. Like say, springs to end of Cronkivody Straight, the white line split, and it's a right-hander. Well, that is flat out in top gear as if there's nothing there for us.
Let me stop you there, right? So I'd agreed to do this lap on the back of, obviously, Ben. This parade lap, it's a nice steady lap. And I thought, right, and I've never been out and watching it at the TT because I've always been, obviously, racing there and then busy with a TV job. And I thought, I'll pop out. And I said, where can we go? And I said, you can go and stand at the end of Cronkivody Straight. So I'm sat there and the Sidecar's coming out. I thought, this is good. I can kind of see what I'm in for in a few days' time. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
You can't believe they just come down there flat. Yeah. And Gungadin sat in the back, not even looking where he's going. And I'm thinking, what have I flipping let myself in for?
So maybe we better pick up on that point just before you carry on. The reason I'm not looking is because I want to stay out the wind for aerodynamics.
Yeah.
When you're going up like the mountain mile or whatever, if I'm having a look, you can actually hear revs just drop off. So it's that sort of critical. Yeah.
Yeah. So there, for example, you get there and it's flat out in top gear, and if he now does something. The story for us was I thought one night I can do this flat. He's having it tonight through there flat. So it did, and it went sideways. Showed me bank, showed me other bank, and somehow straightened up. And then you have no time to think about that because you're straight into another series of bends.
Yeah.
And when we got back in, I says, "What happened at end of Cronkivody Straight?" And he asked me the same thing. And I says, "Didn't you get out? Did you forget?" I thought that he'd had a moment or just. And he said, "I don't do anything there." And I said, "Well, you need to. You need to start.
Right.
I can't do that flat out if you don't do something." And then the next thing.
Is this a heated discussion?
A little bit.
Or is it?
It was
Well,
like.
it needs saying,
Yeah.
it has to be on the table.
And apparently it was nobody's real fault. So why don't you move? Because I can't move my legs that fast because I have to lock them in here. So then the next year we changed the shape of his tray what he's on, so that it could have a fluid movement easily and drop back in easily.
Just for Cronkivody.
Just for there, and then
But
then that helps.
So Tom can
Yeah.
respond quicker to it. Yeah.
Exactly. So then it moves on to somewhere else, and then all of a sudden that might give you half a second there, or over 40 miles. That's 3 or 4 seconds a lap, without really me doing much more, him doing a little bit more, but still in a comfort zone. So his effect on the bike is massive. So if he doesn't move when he normally would, then you'd get out of it. But in certain places, if it didn't, it'd be curtains.
Yeah.
And you why should you have that feeling of going through here, it's going to be terrible? If I can help the bike to be more planted through a section, he's happier, he's going to go through it better. It all works together.
And it'd be easier on the outfit, obviously.
Yeah. But that area in particular that Ben's talking about, in the Cronkivody Straight, that was like from the Sidecar Passenger's Handbook. You don't have to do anything through there. Sit still. And once that happened, it were like, right, I'm going to rip that up now and completely start again. And then the approach just changed, and then the thinking changed. You have got to be busy because there's so many crests and jumps and stuff like that. And like Ben says, if you can just snick a bit here, 10 places around the course, you've knocked a big lump off.
So when you're running out of the hill onto the big long straight to go down towards Cronky Body, where's your next shut-off point?
There's that right we're talking about, then there's another right that's flat, and then I go back to 5th for the next right and back to 4th for the left.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fascinating for me, this. Absolutely fascinating. We could spend all day talking about it. But what I want to talk about is your first TT memories. Like, go way back. Were you watching the sidecars then? Were you thinking, hey, we'll have a go at this at some point?
I think we 100% were. I mean, 1982 was the first TT Mum and Dad ever took me to. So I'd have been, I don't know, 4 or 5 or something. And I can just vaguely remember it, but then it was every year from then on. And my dad had a great love of sidecars. Obviously, solos as well, but he just had a thing about sidecars. So we'd watch them. We didn't go home when they were on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it got on. But my main ambition and main thing was to be a solo racer. That's what I wanted to do.
Really?
But when I got, they were.
But you got a little brother.
I'd got 3 actually. There's 4 of us. Old John were making sausages and pork pies as fast as he could, but he couldn't make enough to buy me a solo. So I went, quite an easy route was into sidecars as a passenger. That was just a good, which I obviously liked and enjoyed and liked the thought of, but that was an easier way to get into racing. So that's sort of where it went.
Yeah.
Yeah, earliest ones. Every year, 2 weeks, that was our family holiday. When there's 4 sons, my mum and dad, and then there were another family that used to come as well, and it just involved riding motorbikes around field, climbing trees, playing in stream. We actually had a campsite at the bottom of Bagara there, and the bridge that you jump over. Well, I used to run through that, underneath that bridge when bikes were going over, building dams in stream and stuff like that. Just great memories, And then it'd take us up to the paddock, and when we were young kids and getting autographs off the riders there. But
who was your heroes at that time?
You.
Oh,
yeah. Not that
back
old.
in 80s. It would I've got
from all that time ago, and still.
I've got
feel old.
Got good pictures being sat on Joey Dunlop's bike or Robert Dunlop's bike. Dave Jeffries. I'll be about 10 I think or something. Dave Jeffries were on a V&M Yamaha then. John McGuinness still. But cool memory was Dave Jeffries. It was on that Chesterfield on super stock bike or production bike as it would be then. And he were leading racing. He'd come through bottom of Bagara there, and I was there's an entrance a bit further down called Camel Farm, and I'm like a kid, waving my program, stood on outside at Bend, which my dad let me do. Probably not a good idea, but whatever. So there I am waving it, and he noticed, and he just I don't know if he dropped it down a gear or whatever, he just put it on back wheel all the way down towards 13th. I was like, whoa. It was so
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Hey, talking about your dad and jumping out in front of people. Oh. Is this a true story that your dad was a marshal and
got a nickname, Phantom Flinger? Remember? He just.
I can just picture him. I can.
You can't you? He's just the most enthusiastic
buffoon
man. Yeah. So obviously he broke his back getting us to TT somehow. And as I can remember as kids, it were all stressful, and he's loading a Land Rover and a trailer with everything that he could fit in, and it were tight. Money were tight, but we made it. We always made it, and so for us to then do the TT,
huge.
I think we overlooked it a little bit because you're like, right, we're going to do it, but you imagine it for John and Sue.
Yeah.
And they were still on the same campsite, I reckon. We were in Paddock. So for him to be involved in it, he marshalled. He loves marshalling, and he always has. He always used to marshal at the bottom of Bagara, but then I think he started moving around a little bit. So our first night of practice, newcomer, we did the controlled lap and came in, and then you're off on your own, which control lap's a bit what's happening because you can't get going. So got going, and I think I got through end of Cronkovody again down that way and sort of towards top of Bagara, and next minute there's a marshal in the road waving at me and what's happening, and I just as you just catch that corner of your eye, you don't want to look, but you try and have got one forward and one here, and it's John. And I thought, what the fuck? And there's no other marshals jumping about or waving flags, so obviously if the course is clear, I'll carry on. Gets back to paddock, and he has a gold star, BSA gold star, so it obviously took him about 3 hours to get that started after practice already. He made his way back to paddock in dark. How was that? I said, oh great, yeah. He said, did you see me? Yes, Dad, I did. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Well, it then goes on every night, but I'm ready for it next night. I thought, John, don't jump out. It's somewhere else. So not only is the hazard learning the track, it's dodging John every night.
Keep you on your toes.
That's brilliant, that. So when you first got into sidecars, Ben, again, this is another story we heard that you were asking your boss for time off work.
Yeah.
He wouldn't allow it. Tell us the story there.
I've been passengering for 3 or 4 years with a great guy from Great Harwood in Blackburn who's passed away recently, unfortunately. But anyway, so I was sort of, it cut me in half. It said sidecar in the middle of me. That's it. That's what I was doing. I had great fun. And I got an opportunity to go Grand Prix racing as a passenger, which was like the ultimate level to get to. And I was really up for that. And I went to the guy that I worked for, who had a garage. I was a mechanic, and explained the situation. Said I think it was about 40 days holiday. Well, in my head, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't need paying for them all. I just need to be able to go. And he's like, no, I can't let you have that much time off. And so I said, oh, okay, no problem. I'll just hand my notice in. I'll go to end of week. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was going Grand Prix racing. And he said, what? You're going to leave? I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And he'd been out on road testing with me in a few cars, and he sort of knew what I was like. And I think I'd said at some time I'd love to drive a sidecar, but it was just a way off. I couldn't really see a way of doing it. And he said, well, I thought you wanted to drive a sidecar. I said, I can't. I need 10 grand minimum to buy one, and then I've got to find a van and this and that. And he said, well, if you stay here, I'll give you 5 grand. You find the other 5, and then you stay here and you get to drive a sidecar. So that opened up a different window for me. So
how did you find your other 5 grand?
I went home, got our lass, says we're going to the bank, and explained how we wanted this kitchen extension doing, and it was going to be a worthwhile project, and walked out with my 5 grand banker's draft and
put a lot of collateral on the house. Obviously.
Yeah. And then Kel, my missus, she's always had a decent job. You know, she's always worked really hard, and she'd got a nice car, a Fiat Punto Turbo, a bright yellow one, which she loved. And about 2 weeks later, I'd sold that and bought an old Transit to put this bike in. So yeah, and then we went. You know, we were off. We'd got a bike and we're off racing.
And the rest is history, as they say.
Flipping heck, that's some commitment,
Isn't it just?
Yeah. But you know, looking back, it was just in a blink of an eye. I weren't even.
No.
You know, you don't even think.
And do you think
about it.
your time, obviously passengering on the sidecar, do you think that helped, especially with the TT stuff? You know, to understand what Tom's saying when you're having your debriefs and your.
Yeah, it helped a lot, because obviously I was just wild, and I'd got off a sidecar that was winning a British Championship, and I knew what lap time you're supposed to do. I knew what was supposed to be flat out, but I just didn't have the skill as yet to do that. But I did have compassion for who was on side, because I know the driver that I was on was just a hard driver, and to him it didn't matter what went on to him on side. Whereas I sort of knew how it felt, so that definitely helped. I never did TT as a passenger.
No.
Luckily, don't think I'd have ever come back if I'd have done it with Dave. He was a hard rider. But yeah, it helped in a lot of ways. But then at some point, you have to sort of forget about what he's doing and concentrate on what you're doing. And I think that's the next level of speed and success that you get to as a sidecar team, where, yeah, I don't go up and down gearbox in between chicanes or jam on brakes halfway through and when he's mid-movement, ever. But at some point, it's got to get difficult, and at some point, he's got to decide if he wants to commit to that next level of, I can't do that. We can't go through there at that speed. And touch wood, I've never had that.
No, I don't actually. I think that's a load of old tosh.
Oh, it makes me feel loads better when I thought that.
You
Well,
wanna
fuck
be
him, I'm just going to let it have it next.
You want to be on the side of you going through some chicanes at Donington Park when you're trying to find pole position.
So if you're obviously squatted down and out of sight for a lot of the time, looking at whatever you're looking at on
What we're talking about
for
now.
references when you're circulating around the TT, do you ever criticise or not criticise? Do you ever say, can't we do this or can't we do that instead?
Yeah.
At various
always-
parts around the course, obviously.
I've got, an idea about what's going on, but it's like, how do you put that across the table sometimes, you know?
Mhm.
I'll just wait and see where he's at after a practice lap. I
I've
might
got-
say it to Big Jim in mechanic. Our mechanic might say, Jim, through there is a bit, or probably a gear eye or whatever. So then Jim will relay that. Then it goes in.
Yeah.
Jim's big enough.
I was going to say, has anybody seen Jim?
He's about 8 foot tall and 25 stone.
So
But no, there's always a bit of backwards and forwards, but there's a reason he's got all the handlebars and I do what I do, because he's good at doing that. So if he wants a bit of summit, I'll give a bit of summit, whether he
Mhm.
takes it on board or not, that's up to him.
do you think you'd have been as successful as you are, Ben, without Tom next to you?
I'd have got a lot further.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I would have said so, yeah.
Mm.
You needed Steve.
He'd have been
Yeah.
begging.
Cheers, lads.
And unfortunately, obviously, Tom's not big enough to ride a bloody solo.
I'd have. I wouldn't have done it. It was that moment about the boss saying, "Go and buy your own bike."
Yeah.
It was because I knew that Tom would do it with me. It was only like 14 at the time, so I had to wait a year, and I had a great lad on side, Jamie Wynn, until he was old enough, and he put up with me
Yeah.
until and it would he just got like this 100% written proof that he were getting sacked as soon as he could find an helmet small enough to go on his head.
We used to gang up on Jamie, didn't we? Bless him. Like he'd send me out watching somewhere and go, "Tell me what he's doing through there." I'll go and have a look and come back like, "He's not very good, he should be doing this."
So do you think that's where your advantage comes from?
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does.
I think so.
It's- yeah, we have it without even realising. I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I look at, I'm not saying I feel sorry for anybody, but the commitment that the likes of Dave Molyneux has, or Tim Reeves, that they're going through their careers as drivers and exceptional and a really high standard, and to have a passenger that wants to do that for as long as they want to is very rare. I mean, the amount of time me and Tom have been together as a team is unheard of, really, in two bloke scenario, let's say. So for them to keep having the commitment to do it again and hopefully find someone who's good enough or that you can get on with or that you have a click with, because it's important, we'll have a squabble, but we have we do have a click. With somebody asked us a question yesterday, we did some stuff yesterday, and we were talking about our welfare for each other or how you think of each other. Well, I care about him, not just through racing, I do, but I already care about him because he's my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So that bit is just natural. If he's a bit down in dumps, I'll ring him up and we'll go for a pint or something. And it just, that passes on to racing. So I think that it has a bigger advantage. The more you think about it, the more that you realise, you're that step already before.
Yeah. So let's talk about your two big crashes that you've had at the TT then. How does that affect you as a pairing?
Let me just jump in there.
Go for it.
Because obviously,
Here we go.
because obviously,
You could open up a can of worms.
Tom's
It's never been discussed ever.
Tom's
why we're
obviously when he was first talking about the TT, he knows where he is and what he is and what's going on and everything else. So first of all, whose fault was it?
Is
Right.
Oh God. Oh God.
no. The first one, like you said in the introduction, that was a component failure. No doubt about that. We'd just gone over tram lines, and the thing had bottomed out and stuck down. We've later found out, but as he's turned into left there at the end, I'm like down, crouched out the wind, doing my job. I'm doing really good. Can't feel any wind on me, and I'll just sort of look for the white lines as they're coming behind. And I thought, hang on, went wrong side of them white lines. As I looked up, there's them plastic bollards just going doosh, 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 doosh. The next thing I know, he's turned it then, and we've gone poof, like Dukes of Hazzard style off
Really?
at Sidecar
Yeah.
Mountain there. Yeah,
It was mega.
huge, huge
Oh, you
jump.
can say that now.
Well, what do you do? It were
Oh.
going wrong, and there were no coming back from it.
No.
And at that speed, your mind is thinking at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And,
Yeah.
and I don't think that until somebody's been in a racing situation, realises how you've milliseconds to decide what to do. And I thought, if we go off here sideways, it's going to barrel roll, and then
You are screwed.
you're knackered, aren't you? So at last minute, I turned it straight and just did a jump, massive yeehaw. And it went miles, didn't it?
Yeah,
And did you get thanks for that?
No, I couldn't find him.
no, I was stuck in a sheep fence, wasn't I?
Was you?
Yeah, he cleared the fence. You know, this fence
Great.
would be, I'm not exaggerating, it's got to be 20 metres off the edge of the road, you know, to stop sheep going near the road.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've gone off, and they were like, they'd done some roadworks up there, thankfully. Took a big wall down, actually. And they'd like, the lads who have been up there had left like a kicker on after the tarmac, you know, some rough ground and like a kicker. So it's like gone poof, one of them, and sort of hit me up the arse. I've just gone, get rid of this. So I've gone backwards, sort of thing. But you were that long in air, it became uncomfortable. You know, you knew you were like,
Oh.
He was waiting for the bang.
hang on, this ain't right. Well, I've landed, gone into sheep fence, but he's cleared the sheep fence
With the outfit.
in
Yeah.
the bike, riding it, making daft noises.
Ace.
Really?
If I do it again, I'll do a one-hander.
We'll get some photographers up there this time, just in case.
Oh, dear.
What did it do to the outfit then? Total all?
It was just amazing, really.
Yeah.
As it landed, it landed on its wheels downhill. So and hit nothing else. It did some bodywork damage, and it sort of flicked me out the seat, and I sort of trapped my arm, had a bit of an arm, and lost my wind a bit. But it didn't. The damage weren't that bad at all. And and then the story goes on that I was staggering about looking for him, couldn't find him, and then he was like right back up there in this fence. And we got a helicopter ride back. And I mean, this was second night of practice, so the second time we'd rode this brand new bike supplied by Claffey, and us getting the ride with Claffey in sidecar terms would be like you getting a World Superbike ride in your second season. It don't happen. It was, and at that time he was running a World Superbike team and dead successful, and there were data men and all this stuff that I knew nothing about. So there was some pressure on. And then I thought, that's it, I've ruined it, I was sacked. I'm sat in this helicopter going back. I've proper done it this time. I'm sorry, Tom. And he's laying there going, shut up. And somehow they got the bike back. They had to winch it up and take this fence down to get it through. And he sat us down for a meeting. We weren't injured, we were just bruised. And he said, okay, that's it. We forget this year, we'll come back next year. And we looked at each other and went, no. We'll fix it. It's all right. And he sat, and he must have sat. It felt like 10 minutes, and he never said a word, did he? And we had a coach then, and some were out at windows, and I'm sweating, thinking, "Come on, just let us fix it. We can do it." Because I thought, if I can at least ride again, we'll do half all right, and he might let us ride again. And he said, "Okay." He said, "But I can't do the bodywork." And I said, "I can do that." So we set about it. There's minimal mechanical damage, but the bodywork was bad. And somehow we found another set of fairings on the Isle of Man that somebody else had. So the back end of ours was good, and they got this other one. So I cut it in half, and then cut the bad bit off ours, joined them together, and then set about it. And
Laminated it.
yeah,
Got it.
so you start with some tape and bits of aluminium, and then you do one side and other side, and join it together. We missed one night's practice, so we did like all day,
missed
full
Wednesday,
night
didn't we?
into the next day. He was quite badly bruised up and bashed up, and I said, "Look, we'll just do a lap. Let's just do a lap. Then we qualified. Hopefully, we've done a 3 laps. If we can go quick enough, we're qualified. We could have a night off if everything's not all right." And I'm like saying anything just to get him back on
Just
it.
to get him perked up.
You can imagine. So we sort of rolled up. Paintwork didn't look so good, which we rolled up for practice. And I stood there, and I looked at him, and he looked half all right, and I thought, I hope that fiberglassing's gone off. Because it's like the front of it. And I thought, I'll stop at Braddon and just check it. Yeah, I'll stop at Braddon. And then this fog come down, and then you couldn't see a thing. And they said, practice is cancelled. And I thought, oh, thank fuck for that. And I looked round to see, nice one to him, and he'd gone.
I was not ready for that job.
No.
Not that night. I needed some more tramadol.
Needed second wind.
So we got a night's grace, and it got took off for a bit of paintwork, and then we just chipped away, and it went on from there. And I can't remember. I think we had a fourth and a.
No, we had 2 podiums. The first race we were second. A bit of good luck. Somebody dropped out. I can't remember who. And then the second race we were third.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
fair play.
it went on. Yeah.
But with that crash, was it obviously your brothers? You're close. It's going to be the same for any teammate in a sidecar. But was there any question like, "Are you sure you're all right with this?" and vice versa, or not?
We never. I don't remember us actually saying it to each other. I think.
No, I
like,
don't want to
Yeah.
sound a bit robotic, but no.
Yeah.
There's not really a question of doubt. You know, it was like we worked out why. You know, it weren't just going to drive off at side of a mountain for crack, was it? You know.
Well, I don't know. By the sound of it, it sounds like he did it on purpose.
Well,
once you'd got no choice, it was quite good.
he'd got the brakes done at the right time, gone down the gears right,
Yeah.
turned in. That was it. Away. So it was like box it off, try again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fact that it were quite air raising, well, it's just what we do, I think.
Yeah.
Just lucky though,
Yeah.
lucky that there was nothing there. You know, when you look at what happened to Connor Cummins, he wouldn't have been nearly as badly injured if there wouldn't have been a stone wall there. But
Yeah.
stone wall's been there. It's part of Isle of Man. You're not supposed to go anywhere near him, are you?
Well, yeah.
Mm.
So from crashing 12 to 13, quite a different outlook.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It was some journey really to go from that to that. It was mega, and good team. We had a real good team, you know, and half of it's still with us, and I think that's the key. That's the key to it, definitely. That.
You know, and what was the feeling, obviously, to put your first win to bed?
I can remember it like it was yesterday, and I still remember the feeling of, is that really happening? That's really happened, which sort of was the moment for me. But then, my next realisation kicks in is that, well, yeah, but I'll need to do it again, and
Straight away.
and that is it, yeah. And that really is my approach. So I love the moment, but it's not the end, is it? It's not. I'm not going to stop now. I've got to do it again. So I've got to find a way of doing it again. And can I do it again? And yeah, might sound a bit boring, but
I have this conversation so much because
Yeah.
people, you know, say to you obviously about winning, and they say, well, what's the best thought? The best feeling is winning, obviously, at any event and so on. But this very sad part is usually on a short circuit or wherever you may be away from the TT. You know, it lasts for the drive home, then you're thinking about the next event.
Next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, for you winning the first one, you've got another race that week.
yeah, it ain't done. Job's not done. You know, there's drinking done. Will be in beer tent, but only just for people to say, "Oh, well done." You know, it is not finished.
Job's not done yet. No.
So was
No.
was it obviously your personal feelings? Was it relief or was it a massive celebration
It
to
was
win
a
the first one?
bit of relief, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was sort of
It's like monkey off your back a
yeah.
bit.
And we never go into TT, do we? Like presumptuous of anything.
Never.
I've never said this is how we're going to do it, but this is just how we do it. We just go there best we can, and see what you get. And if it's not a win, it's not a win. And I think that is, for me, that's important. Keeps you level, keeps you grounded, but it keeps you hungry as well. So when you get something, it's relief, but it's like, whoa, great.
You know, and driving and passengering, was it hard work, or was it hard work and a surprise for the first win, or was it easy and felt like you hadn't really tried?
I suppose tricky to keep the high level of concentration, because you catch a glimpse of a pit board and it says P1 plus 4. Whoa, this is on the last lap, but
Don't break down, please. Don't break down.
Yeah, there's all that, and then you've got to hit everything perfect, And whereas before that, you might have been doing that without knowing what position you're in, just feeling good, and then if you've got to grow up quick and not let the stuff creep in, while you've got your helmet on and thinking about that first pint will taste lovely and all that kind of thing, So yeah, had to really keep concentrated and only think about it, when that bloke were waving that checkered flag. But another thing is, don't want to let him down. Want him to win as much as me. So that's an extra bit of motivation. But it's just an absolute flood of emotion. Like, I think that first win is probably the favourite. I don't know if that question were going to come, but just having that relief and working that hard for that amount of time and going through all them, helicopter trips and eating bran flakes in hospital in the morning and all that, thinking, I don't want to be here.
This is now it's supposed to end.
Yeah.
It's funny because and the reason why I asked that really is because from a solo side, I had 2 laps of leading and everything to lose.
Yeah.
Obviously, whether it be a breakdown or making a mistake, but of course for you two, it's 2 people's concentration, not one.
Yeah.
You've got to keep proper on it, concentrated, and not start thinking about
the
what
good
you're going to do
stuff.
after the checker flag and so on. It's
No,
tough.
and it is easy to let that creep in because, you come round Craignor Bar on last lap. If you're in lead, you're having programs waved at you and all that lot, and you think you'd almost say you'd done it, but you haven't, have you? And I think it's just that respect for the place again. You keep that. But for our first 4 or 5 wins, I would say, I wasn't at a level of skill there to be able to do anything other than go like I was going. That I was one speed, full on. And John McGuinness collared me back at grandstand and he said, "What the bloody hell are you doing trying to break lap record on the last lap when you've got a 20-second lead?" And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And then I sort of thought, how could I regulate it? Could I slow? Can you? And then you sort of realise that you can. And what a great position to be at TT, where I could pick my feet up if I needed to. And then you get in a comfier position. That's providing that nobody else can do the same thing behind you. But I don't really want to talk about it, and sound big-headed or that I'm better than anybody else. But it's so nice to be at that level with your bike, with Tom. Whereas you can sort of, if you've got a bit of a cushion on last lap, you can shift gear at 15 instead of 15 and a half, and adjust your helmet a bit or swallow, and not have to be so. Flag's gone, you can shut off now.
All right, so let's look to the future. 2022, we're only a matter of weeks away from the TT. Sorry to say that, lads. I hope you're prepared.
Yeah.
How's your preparation going? What are you expecting, or what are you? Obviously, you're wanting to win. Are you looking at that lap record as well as something you want to take?
It gets talked about a lot. Preparation's good. We've had 2 years to prepare something that should be a lot different to what we've took before.
Right.
And it's something that we talked about doing for a long time, but never had the time or the resources or the help to do it. So we've found that, and so that's going to be dead interesting. The way
put another wheel on it.
Steve's on.
Took one off.
Took one off in the real world now.
We're allowed to see Steve. It's just different configuration and engine configuration and the way that the drive's given to the back wheel.
Right.
So that'll be interesting. And saying that, if it don't work, we also need to go back to what we know. So we'll effectively have 2 bikes there this year, so that if by Tuesday and Wednesday it's not working, we can put the old pair of shoes back on and go at it. But yeah, preparation's great, and the 120 lap, who knows? It's not. It'd be fantastic. It's not really on my radar. It's not something I dream about doing. I dream about winning another, definitely, or winning more than one. If that lap comes, then great. But I don't think that it'll be just us that ups our game, and I don't think it'll be just us that can get to that speed in future. But it's doable when you look on paper. I didn't look. I resisted it. And he's laughing because they all know, don't show him splits, don't show him splits. I don't want to know if I can do it or not, because you just shit yourself if you know you can, don't you? And then all I'll do is just think about nothing else. And if it's one sector that's letting me down, I'll just be obsessing over that. So I've resisted it. But I looked the other day, and it's doable. But it's, I mean, you know what TT's like. The sector that is from about 3 years ago that makes it up, and I don't know why that was. I don't know, could have been throttle stuck or something, or I forgot to change down. Who knows? I don't remember, but I think it is doable, and it'd be great. I think it'd be a great thing for sidecars and for TT to go back. But I'm not going hell for leather after that. I'm going to try and win.
You said you've been doing some wrecking, obviously just recently with your newcomer and so on. But how do you feel? Obviously, you've missed 2 years. It's 3 years since you've raced there. How do you think pace-wise will be anyway if you was going to be using the same outfit, say?
I don't think. Like 2019 were probably a good gauge of that. What do we have? 2 practice laps for the whole week.
Yeah, weather was bad for practice week.
Horrendous, yeah. So we went to the grid. Sort of, how's this going to go? But we had to rely on his experience and had to rely on a good package that we knew we'd put together from previous year. Went with that, had a word with each other, and just sort of went, right, know what needs doing, let's just try and do it. Didn't get too worked up, didn't get too, wound up about it. Just went and did what sort of came naturally, and it paid off. So, yeah. Going back, it's going to take a lot of adjusting to, obviously. It's always a shock. The first night of practice is always like a shock to the senses. The sun's going down and a bloke says, there's the road, it's all yours, off you go, and there's dust and leaves and it's noisy and it's like, what? But, cannot wait to get back to that. So, like I said before, it's always like starting again. So I don't think that'll change. And to be honest, the last 2 years I just throw them in bin. It's like 2020 for us.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to get back to it, want to get back involved. But wow.
So for your approach 22 this year, obviously you're going with a development outfit, and going from what you've just said, Tom, obviously, what if the weather's bad for 22 for the first practice week? Then what will your plan be? Revert back to
we'll just probably revert back and.
Touch wood, we're going to have a great TT, obviously, and everybody's going to get as much practice as possible.
And it's preparation. We'll just be prepared to drop back to what we know. If like say, if the weather's bad or if something's not working, and going with something new, first time back after 2 years is a bit, because I'm going to be spending a lot of time thinking what's happening with the bike and not so much time readjusting. So I have thought about it all, and we'll just decide as a team. They'll know if I'm pulling that funny face that I pulled. Jim will say, "Get off that," or something. So we'll be prepared. But going last weekend did me a world of good, because everybody's saying, "Oh, they've tarmac this and they've done that, and course is in the right state," and it's fine. I'd go tomorrow. It's no worse than it's been. It's just a bit different in places, and they're gonna hopefully all get the fingers out and get hitting tarmac with backs of shovels and level it all up a bit before we get there.
I can tell from what Chris just said when he just mentioned about obviously running to 2022. You both sat there and smiled, like you can't wait to get there.
You just can't.
Genuinely excited, really am. It's funny, when we went back the other week, it proper did that Isle of Man thing to us. We got there and it was throwing it down, and there was fog, and we go up mountain, you couldn't see a thing in front of us, like eager to do a lap. It's like, just be patient, lads. And then the next morning it was beautiful, and we got some early laps, and it was mega. But it was just that, it just sort of pulled you back and just went, just be patient.
Yeah.
When I'm ready, you can have a go. And you just got to take that in a bit, haven't you, over there? It's when it comes, it's amazing, and you have to just wait for that sometimes.
I've spent weeks thinking. Well, I've spent 2 years. You sit and you think, I'll do a lap in my head. I don't know if anybody else does this or not through there. can't remember that bit. And then I have to go and watch, or I have to like.
And can you remember
I am sat
every
here,
gear,
yeah.
every gear, after every turn, that kind of
I don't
level of...
I don't do that until a month before. Then I'll start going through my gears in my head. Because if I do that now, I won't sleep. So to go back and just familiarise yourself with it.
I'm not going to sleep now. You've said all that.
Exactly.
But it's and I was happy with how much I knew, because you sort of it's 2 years where I resisted thinking about it too much, but I couldn't help but think about it. And then I don't know. I thought, I don't know if I know enough, or I remember enough, or I've got to work a lot harder. But I haven't. It's there, and that shows how much you've ingrained it in your mind over the last 10.
Right, usually at the end of a podcast we ask, I ask some quick fire questions which you can just answer one or the other. Okay, you've been asked some questions both here in separate rooms, but because there's two of you, we're doing Mr. and Mr.
What have you
So
said?
we're going to ask you
Not bad,
separately.
mate.
Right,
Quite
Ben.
nice.
Okay, we asked Tom, who is Ben's TT hero? What do
Carl
you think?
Fogarty.
Yeah.
Too easy.
Not just
Flip it
TT
now.
hero, he's just my hero. Full stop.
What a top man! One of ours, not
Ours,
mine.
yeah.
One of ours, teammate. And what is?
I've even got them eyes tattooed on my arm.
Get out!
I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
Now that is a massive.
I seen it in Motorcycle News when he did it, and I thought, that's what I'm having. So I went straight down to Monster Shop at Mansfield. Can you do this? And he looked, this great big Hell's Angel type bloke looked at me, he went, what, that? I said, yeah. Yeah, sit down.
No wonder you've been thrown out of Mansfield now.
He did us. we won in 2013, and we were having a pint in hospitality bit. Like elated, awesome, walking around with this great big trophy. And then Carl was there, and he goes, "Oh, hey up, lads, can I have a look and all that." So bloody hell, foggy, and having a picture took with him. And I leant across to him and goes,
I couldn't speak, I was like that.
"Yeah, show me your tattoo, Ben." And he's going, "Piss off."
Oh, brilliant.
Hey, he listens to the podcast, so he's going to know now.
Right, second question. What is Ben's worst habit?
Bloody hell, I've got a few. I don't know what he'd say. Pretending it's not my fault, probably. I don't know.
Doesn't wash his socks.
Uh,
Very stinky feet.
My feet don't smell.
Yeah,
You
all
can
right.
never smell your own.
No,
Doesn't matter what it is.
quite like them.
Right, Tom. We asked Ben, what's the one thing Tom couldn't live without?
Hair gel.
Females.
Correct. There.
And
I just better apologise to
Oh, yeah.
Tom's missus.
Yeah,
Her name's
exactly.
Kelly as well.
right, would Ben prefer the 120 mile per hour lap or 18 TT wins?
The wins.
I mean, technically,
Both.
right.
What
Both.
comes first?
He's greedy, isn't he?
That's what he's expecting, I think. So pressure's
I
on.
might get one without other, that's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute
Oh,
pleasure to have you,
thank you.
and we look forward
Thank
to seeing
you.
you on the start line in a few weeks' time.
All right, boys.
Cheers,
See
boys.
you there.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Steve, those boys. Do you know what grasps me about those two boys is how professional they are, how they've not let that success go to their head. Like, every single TT is treated with the utmost respect.
And still hungry, still starving
Yeah.
for more success. They really are. It's their number one priority, of course.
Mm-hmm.
They've said they're bringing out something completely different for 2022 at the TT. And fair play to them. They just want to go faster and faster.
What's your predictions with these boys? Is there any sign of anybody getting close to them?
Do you know what? Normally, you would say that their only enemy is themselves. But with those two, they're so level-headed and take nothing for granted at all. Of course, things can go wrong mechanically, breakdowns, whatever it may be. But I really don't know who or what is going to stop them.
I'm going to predict nothing.
I'm going to predict you're going to be a passenger with Ben Birchall at some point.
I think we need to make that. We need to make that happen.
Get on it.
This has been episode 7 of the TT podcast. If you've enjoyed it, then please hit that subscribe button and leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now, don't forget, we have plenty more star-studded names from the world of the TT coming up in this series. And here's a little taste of what to expect from the next guest, Glenn Irwin.
If you travel around the world somewhere and you get friendly with people on holiday, and what do? And you try to tell them what you do, and then you go, well, do you know the Isle of Man TT? Yeah. You know, that's the one you want to win, isn't it?
That next episode will be out in 2 weeks' time. And don't forget, you can catch all the latest news and features over on iomttracers.com. And be sure to check us out on all the usual socials. We are at TT Racers Official. Thanks for listening.